Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk4287. Cryptopunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we've got a regular punk. Here's Punk4287 with two Attys, horn-rimmed glasses, and a gangster do-rag. In real life, he's a collector and Web3 builder, being the founder of the fun NFT profile picture project called The Regulars. Please welcome P0pps to the show. P0pps, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning or good evening.
Good morning, good evening. Is P0pps right pronunciation? I don't know if you got a zero, so it's throwing me off a little bit.
P0pps is right. P0pps is right. Yep. It started as my Words with Friends name and junk email address. And I was using that junk email address, spam email address. I started just using it for everything Web3 and ended up on P0pps when Twitter said it was the shortest name available.
No, it's a cool one and definitely sort of sticks in my mind. Maybe you could just start us off just getting to know a little bit more about you, introduction to your background and ultimately what led you into Web3 and crypto.
Yeah, sure. I got very into computers and programming when I was younger, like high school and early college. And I actually thought I was going to study computer science. And then at one point, just totally changed directions and transferred schools and went to art school, where I was just focused more on media and making media, and ended up in New York working in a bunch of different capacities, but always kind of around making media. So I ended up in post-production for video, where it was a nice balance of technical and artistic challenges. And I did that for a long, long time. But I've always kind of kept up as best I can with what's going on with technical innovations. And I got into crypto a little bit later than a lot of people. In 2017, I think, is when it finally clicked, and started. I did a small investment. I don't know what Ethereum was. It was cheap at the time, maybe like under $100, maybe even under $50. I don't remember. But right away, like that was right before the bull market, and then my account started growing, and that sucked me in even more. But I would say that although I was paying attention to a lot of different details, the power of Ethereum didn't quite click till even like about 2 years after that. So I was kind of following it as like an investor for a while. And then once I kind of understood a little bit more about the EVM and how it works, I started kind of thinking about, what it really means for our future, other than just digital money. To have this autonomous computer, I thought was really exciting. And eventually got into Solidity and building on the chain.
Nice. So does that mean you can code in Solidity? Are you like a sort of a...
Yeah, I actually found Solidity pretty approachable because of how limited it is. Where like I was learning JavaScript pretty early in like the late 90s. And if you look at what JavaScript is today, it's like a huge universe. So it's a little intimidating if you aren't spending every day programming and learning the latest frameworks and stuff. But Solidity is just like a baby. So I was lucky to have just a fantastic advisor who kind of helped me with some like bigger picture things. But he actually programmed our original contract for the regulars. But he's a pretty busy guy. So some of the other projects that we've done just required like a lot of, I don't want to call it grunt work, but just like a lot of work, not just knowledge of implementation. And also I found it challenging to know who to trust with Solidity and how to manage like who's deploying your contracts and how are you sure that you own them and stuff like that. So I had an incentive to kind of get some hands-on experience with Solidity, and then I just really came to like it and appreciate how it all works. And it, the setup and the frameworks are pretty easy to get your head around. So yeah, I've been working with Solidity for about a year and a half or so.
That's cool. But how did you transition? Because I think you said that you wanted to do computer science, but you ended up choosing media studies, right?
Yeah, I did, and I did that. That's that's one of the reasons why I landed on the regulars is because I had been I run my own company, so we have to do a lot of different kinds of media work, and we only started doing CGI like 8 years ago or something like that, and then during COVID, I took the opportunity to learn a program that was like highly technical for procedural 3D work. I had been doing a little bit of procedural work in Blender, but there's an intimidating program called Houdini, which is kind of like if you can come up with an idea, you can do it in Houdini. It's very interesting. It kind of like exposes all of the inner workings of a 3D program, so you can really control anything. And I learned a bit of Houdini during COVID when we had a little bit more free time, and that around that time is when punks were popping off and apes were popping off, and I thought to myself, well, there needs to be a good 3D project, and just came up with some ideas, and that's how the regulars was born.
Oh, awesome. Oh, we'll dig into the regulars in a moment, but just a little bit more interested about your background and your sort of technical skills. But can you help me understand a little bit more around what media and post production is actually, what it actually is and what's sort of involved?
Sure, yeah. So post production is usually, we receive hard drives after a video shoot, and then with just raw footage on it, and we return finished videos. So it's a combination of editing, animation, CGI, VFX, all those things, and yeah, it's just everything after a video shoot that happens on the computer. So it can be a fairly straightforward process, or it can be a complex process with a lot of moving parts. And usually, the more CGI, the more VFX, the kind of heavier projects get.
Got it. And would you have like a certain type of genre that you would be working on? Would they be movies, documentaries, cartoons, animations? Like,
It's short form commercial content for the most part. We have worked on some movies. We had kind of a reputation for doing futuristic user interfaces, and worked on some movies, some Hollywood movies. But for the most part, I've always liked short form. You get to try out new ideas real quickly and explore them and then move on to another new idea, which I love.
that's super cool.
Movies can be more like a year and a half of revisions on something that you built fairly quickly.
Oh, that's super cool. And I'm assuming that that role in itself sounds very technical, right? In terms of, being able to program and code and being comfortable with, I guess, the various softwares that you sort of mentioned around Blender and the like.
Yeah, there's definitely parts of post production that can benefit a lot from programming. I would think a very small number of people do that kind of work, but everything from After Effects, where you can do expressions, to VFX, where you're using Nuke or Fusion, and that's pretty technical. Color correction is actually strangely technical, like very, very technical. And then lastly, CGI and 3D rendering, of course.
Yeah, that's super cool. Is there anything that you've made that we would recognize in the public domain?
It's mainly been commercial work and a couple personal projects that I just did for fun. Kind of like the regulars, not an NFT project or anything, but just kind of like conceptual ideas that I thought were kind of funny and interesting.
Got it. And then what made you choose media over computer science? Like, what was the deciding factor for you?
I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of was moved to make that change. I don't know. I decided that I didn't want to. At the time, I said I don't want to stare at a computer every day for the rest of my life. But in reality, like I actually did want to spend the day in front of the computer for the rest of my life. And I love working on the computer. I really do. I find it's right for me.
Yeah. I think that's what I said as well, but I think the reality is everybody's behind a computer now, so,
True.
it's
True.
the new world. Man, that's super fascinating background and history, man. Like, I don't think I've met a punk that has a sort of a similar background to you in sort of media in the same way. And then being able to sort of teach yourself how to code Solidity is super, super amazing too. So, kudos to you.
Yeah, I did take some programming courses back in the day, early college. So all that stuff has kind of stuck with me, and I've been hacking away at things, over the years, like small ideas. So yeah, actually, for a while, I had hired a tutor online in like Ireland. He lived in like the hills of Ireland, and he would hop on and help me learn some concepts that were unfamiliar. And so, yeah, I felt a need to kind of keep in touch with that part of myself. But until Solidity, I wasn't really like diving in for days on end.
Got it. Super cool. And then going back to your crypto journey then. So you bought a little bit of Bitcoin in 2017. At what point did you start entering into NFTs?
Yeah, I bought crypto in 2017. I had a very rough 2018, as a lot of people did, I think. And stuck with it, actually. I lost like a large percentage of my net worth, but was, mainly listening to crypto podcasts for like years. And when NFTs came around, it's pretty interesting. And I think I'm not the only one who's like this, but when I first heard about them, I thought to myself, that's dumb. I don't get that. That makes no sense. That's not for me. And it's weird because I was on OpenSea very, very early. I got really into ends domains. So I was on OpenSea super early. And I saw these NFTs. It's just like, for some reason, and like everyone can probably relate to this, like you just didn't dig in to what they are. I saw them. It looked like weird to me. And I just didn't dig in. So I remember when I would log on to OpenSea for a while, I don't think they say this anymore, but it was like member since 2019 or something like that. And then eventually, oh, what happened? I just kept on hearing more about it and then bought one as a test. It's still worth nothing. It's a digital pixel rose or something horrible. But I dug in a little bit and it kind of all clicked that like the idea of scarcity as a digital item is like very meaningful and it's real, and like owning something that's digital is like a real thing too. So I came around to it a little bit late, and funny enough, like I was just obsessed with crypto for a long time, and when CryptoKitties came out, I was fully aware of CryptoKitties. It shut down the network. But I think the aesthetic was like a little harder for me to grasp. Like it just like didn't really land for where I was at the time. So I didn't really look into it much. And the punks, even though I was very active on forums and very active with podcasts, somehow the punks didn't hit my sphere, and I don't really know why. I think that's strange. Like listening to every Laura Shin Pass like podcast and like DC investors like weekly, daily rants about crypto. But punks never came into my vision, unfortunately, because I think I would have been pulled in much earlier had they.
When was this sort of timing that you were pulled into NFTs there when you bought your first rose? Like, what was that timing?
Oh, probably pretty late. Maybe 2020, maybe early 2021. I'm not sure. Let me actually I can check.
That's still that's like in the prime time before the bull market kicked off. So that's still relatively early, I think. And what kind of podcasts were you listening to? Because I was the same, just nerding out on a whole bunch of Bitcoin maxis go at it.
At the time, it was mainly Laura Shin with Unchained.
Oh yeah, Lorishin's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, and then how did you get onto CryptoPunks? Like, if it wasn't on your radar, that sort of early in your NFT journey? How did you find out about CryptoPunks?
When they were heating up, like when that, I think that, what, if I remember correctly, it was like the spring of 2021. Could that have been right? And punks and apes were just popping off. I remember seeing the apes for sale on OpenSea for like 1 to 2 ETH and being like, this is crazy. So I think punks were like around 20 ETH at the time when I really dug in. So pretty late. But Larva Labs and the Punks project, just the execution of it and the idea of it got me really, really excited about the whole thing. And I think that was part of the inspiration for creating my own PFP collection of 10,000. And also I kind of like was like, oh yeah, this is the Grail project. Like this is the one of the first like amazing projects by Larva Labs. Like if like I'd like to get into that at some point.
So what came first, your first CryptoPunk or the regulars?
The regulars, CryptoPunk was purchased after the regulars minted out. So yeah, quite a while after.
Okay. All right. So why don't we start with the regulars then, and then we can get into your CryptoPunk story. So why won't you explain what was the inspiration behind the regulars and what the regulars actually is?
The inspiration behind the regulars, I think I was reacting about a lot of the stuff that I was seeing, and I was seeing a lot of 2D art and a lot of things about, well, I think that there was like the thematic idea and then also the visual idea, and those were kind of separate in the beginning. I knew I wanted to create something 3D using this new kind of technique that I was playing with. And then I knew that most 3D work felt kind of like sterile to me. And I really wanted to see what was possible with creating warmth using CGI, which I think is just like a good challenge. I thought a great challenge is like, how can you use this software to make no technical compromises and make as much variety as possible? So just wanted to push it as far as I possibly could. And then what is it? I think it's just a 10,000 NFT collection, PFP collection, where we really just lean into being regular, being normal. And that theme has like many layers to it. And we've been kind of like exposing new opportunities and new layers like every couple months since the images were done. So it's been fun.
I do remember them popping up on my radar. I think was Tappy SF a big holder of regulars? I can't remember one of the punks.
Yes. Taffy SF was really into the regulars, and he spread the word, and he was
Yeah,
definitely part of that big mint out period.
yeah. Because I think I got onto Tappy SF because he was big into toads, and then I think he got into the regulars as well, which is kind of fun. Admittedly, I didn't get into the regulars at the time. There's just so many projects going on. But when you're talking about 3D sort of projects, the only one that really, that I get haunted by is the mechas. I don't know if you remember the.
Yes. Yep. A lot of hype around the mechas. That was an interesting moment.
And they went to like 7 or 8 ETH out of the gate. But when did you actually launch the regulars? Like when was that?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple lessons I learned since then, but I started in April of 2021, and I thought it would take a couple weeks, and it actually took 5 months. It took 5 months, so it took us till September to finish the artwork. And when I say us, like I hired some specialists to help with a couple things, and I got a lot of good help from a lot of good people. And I don't know if you remember, but over that summer, like every day, it was just like 7-year-old makes millions. It was like crypto rocks worth $1 million. So I was like, oh, cool. Like I might be early enough to just like pull this off, having no clue what it took to market or get the word out. So I really literally thought like, oh, if like 10-year-olds are dropping weird whales and minting out, like this project should be unique enough to kind of do the same thing. But I was really, really wrong. And we finished like halfway through September. and I think decided to postpone the mint for like a month while we built a community, which was tough. And I didn't know anything about Discord. It was, it's a lot of knobs and levers in Discord, a whole new kind of ecosystem that I didn't understand. And I got some great help from someone who found us on Reddit in one of my desperate posts to get the project out. He found us on Reddit and he came and kind of like just immediately took command of the Discord server and believed in the project and helped with like the marketing, even though I wouldn't say we were successful with the marketing and didn't. To this day, I think marketing's a bit of a black box. But in any event, we dropped in October. We had some sales, like a couple hundred sales. And then like throughout the next 6 months, we were still getting a sale here or there. A lot of like FUD, a lot of like people complaining that marketing wasn't doing enough or something. And we didn't know what to do. We were just looking at the other projects like, I guess this is what we do. We do a retweet and tag 5 others, and that's how it's done. And then a couple things happened at once the next spring in April, like just like a couple people got word of it that were kind of pushing it out. And I think that just snowballed. And before long, I think I arrived in California, and on the airplane, I texted my friend. I was like, I think this is going to happen. And like 4 days later, I was visiting my friend out there and like didn't even talk to him for 4 days, was just on the computer and it minted out finally. So that was, and we had some very good reactions during that time. Like Kobe posted it, and yeah, it was really exciting.
Cool. What did Kobe say about it?
It was hilarious, actually. Somebody posted a regular with a picture that kind of looked like Kobe, and his response was just like, "What the fuck is that?" And then, and then I don't remember what the response to that was, but then eventually he's just like, fuck it, and changed his PFP to that regular for a minute, and the sales were just flying. So I think that's like the top of.
Did he buy one, or he just changed these?
I think he just received the gift. The whole thing was like, hey, this looks like you. Like, do you want it?
Yeah, okay.
And he was like, no, I don't want that. It was hilarious.
Because I know he's got a deep hate for altcoins with pictures on it, right? Shit coins with pictures on it is what he likes to call them. But that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think you got in at a really good time. And going back, like, how much were you selling them on primary for?
Oh, you know what happened is that the mint price was 0.05, and this may explain the mint out too. The mint price was 0.05, and then when things got desperate in April, like 6 months later, someone suggested, actually another one of the punks DM'd and said, hey, this project's great, but your price might be too high. Like, what do you think about just cutting it in half? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. Let's move these things. And then we kind of like thought about that maybe the people who purchased them for 0.05 would be a little upset that we were cutting the price after they already invested early. So we made a whitelist for a free mint for people who've already minted. And that worked out really well because, I think anytime, or at that time, especially if you put something out for free, like people come buzzing. So I think that had a lot to do with the mint out. And that's, it's our price right now is fairly low, but that's pretty low, 0.025 for the time.
Cool. What a cool story, man. And no, I really love the aesthetic of them too. I mean, they do look regular and it hits the spot, right? So and they look like a fun collection. Are they just art, or is there some utility? Because I had a look on the website as well, and I think in the FAQ they were sort of talking about earning regular dollars or something.
Yes, I don't know. The word utility really makes me laugh in crypto, but do the regulars have utility? Like we're building kind of like a world, and the first part of that world were these jobs that we made called regular jobs. And if you minted a regular, this may have contributed to the mint out too. Is like halfway through the mint, we announced that if you mint before Saturday, you get a free regular job, which was hilarious because I had no clue like what really was a regular job and how does it work. But the following couple months, I was hunkered down to figure out this next layer, which is the regular jobs, and it's basically we have 60 fictitious companies, and those companies within those companies they have different amount of jobs, which is an NFT in itself, and the jobs have different salaries. And you can, if you have a job, you can assign it to your regular, and then your regular is working, earning a salary that you can claim whenever you want. And when you claim a ERC20 reg token. So I think that there's been like 3 or 4 million reg token earned, and it's not always a lot of claiming because it does cost gas, and the utility for reg token is still a little bit up in the air. So people are kind of just holding on to it. But yeah, if you have a regular, you could have minted a job. If you didn't mint the job, you can buy a job on secondary and assign it to your regular on our website, and then earn your reg token, where we'll have a store for reg token, relatively soon.
That's super cool. Very creative as well. And I'm having a look at the 60 companies that you have. So you got Whopper Juniors, Krabby Shack, McDaddy's Best Shack. Some really fun ones here that some recognizable, iconic, similar to some of the iconic sort of brands that we see today. And just in terms of the jobs as well, it's a different levels give you different rewards. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a couple very simple bonus structures in there. So you can earn different levels, and how you earn those is a little bit up in the air. But also you can collect multiple jobs in one company. And if you do that, you get a bit of a bonus. So there are people who collect only Dunkin' Donuts jobs, and people who only collect Blockbuster jobs because they're getting a bonus for owning multiple.
Got it. That's super cool. I'll take a closer look at that. Sounds fun. Something fun to get involved with. And man, it sounds like you carried the you're building during the bull phase, which is a super exciting time. When you look back at that, I mean, was there anything that you would have done differently, or you would carry on and do better on the next project?
I actually think that everything that happened for a reason, and one quote mistake may have been not talking about the project that I was building for the 6 months that I was building it, because I think people get a little people. I think had I teased it earlier on, it would have probably minted out. And even late August, I sent one to an influencer, not just an influencer, but someone with a big following on Twitter. And he was like, "Oh, these are amazing. You mind if I share these to my friends?" I'm like, let's wait till I at least have a website so you know where to go. And then like 3 weeks later or a month later, I was like, "Okay, man, do you want to share these to your friends?" And he's like, "Oh, no, sorry. I don't do that without a big payment. I need a cut of the whole project." I'm like, times were changing so quickly. But to be honest, I think that having that time and that slow growth really helped in terms of the integrity of the project, because like jobs was an idea I was tinkering with and built the contracts for like 3 separate times and did like 3 different designs of the website. And had I just built that because we were under pressure to just ship, I think it would have probably broken the project. These like dynamic projects are kind of building the airplane as it's taking off, and building on blockchain can be a little scary, and economies can be very like sensitive and can break easily. So I think that even what I've created for the earning and the jobs, like that's how it works like forever. Like there's no really changing that. So the slowness at which the project unrolled has been helpful in the end.
Yeah. It's something to be said about projects launching in different ways. I feel like it adds to the vibe of the project and the community and the narrative that sticks to the community long after it's been launched. And I guess, when you look at CryptoPunks, it was a free mint, free claim. There was no strings attached to it. There's no secondary royalties. All those bits and pieces add up to, the purity of the project. Whereas, a lot of projects that are going out higher prices, being selective with, whitelist to influencers, it sort of sets the project in the wrong direction. And there's been a lot of projects like that where there's been some dodgy stuff being happening on the primary, sniping all the rares and all those other bits and pieces. But I think even, the way that you described it, it sounds like you've done it in an authentic and pure way, which is nice, right? Which not all projects really come with. And I think, maybe over time, I think hopefully that sort of narrative rings true as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of negatives to going with slow organic growth, but there's also some positives for sure. And yeah, I like seeing projects just explode. Like when the Toads exploded, like that was really exciting and fun. But out the gate, commanding like multiple ETH for a big collection, that always confuses me. And I'm like, who's running the show here and how is this happening? Just because like, I feel like we got a decent amount of traction and maintaining floor price is hard. So when you have those high prices, I don't know. I think it's a bit mysterious. A lot has to do with just like general reach probably and then also influencers. But yeah, I think exploding out of the gate, it sets you up for like a pretty challenging situation. And then when people invest like high, like people like the regulars are, pretty affordable, but people invest like tens of thousands of dollars and then lose it, like it doesn't really help the vibe, I think, for the project.
Yeah, I can relate into a few things I've aped into as well. And it sounded like you launched at the time in the spring, summer of 2021, where the norm was getting into gas wars to mint. It was a first come first serve. Everybody was timing when the launch was going to be and loading up their wallets with ETH so they could pay for gas. Was that how you launched as well? More of a
That was a little earlier. That's when we kicked off the prod. Wait, 2021. Oh my gosh, I'm getting confused. Um, I think no, we minted out in 2022. We launched in September in the fall of 2021.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because then I think, yeah, towards the back end of 2021, they started moving into, grinding for whitelists,
Oh yeah.
and then ultimately sort of the pre-mint model came out, which was the sort of the social norm today, which, when it works and it's effective, I guess. But I mean, yeah, it's funny how those times have changed as well to help with the primary launch. Cool. And then so where do you want to take the regulars next? Like what's the next sort of 12 months look like for the regulars?
Sure. Yeah. So we have two pretty exciting initiatives right now. And one is building out all of the characters as fully rigged characters with bodies and clothes and stuff like that. And I'm very excited to have those assets. We really designed the project for the images. And at the time it was such a big lift. It was such a big lift in a lot of ways that all I cared about what was inside the frame. Like if the guy's, shirt was messed up beneath the frame, I like didn't care. But now if we have all 10,000 of these characters, which they just have so much variation, like even subtle differences between them, like give them like pretty big differences in personality and feeling. So having all 10,000 rigged characters makes me really excited. And we're trying to blow that out and make them just like Hollywood level, and use them for a variety of things. I don't really know where we'll start with what to use them for, but having them available and then connecting them to IP rights. We haven't made an official IP right policy, but we are planning to open up like a path to own your IP rights for the regulars. So IP rights plus these bodies will be really, really exciting. And we got some great help with setting up those assets. So I think it's heading in the right direction. It's also a very big lift. So it might be a while until those are all done, but we will probably see some of the proof of concepts drop soon. And then the other big initiative is our website, regular.world. And we might release the updated site in like the next couple of days, but that is the universe, is regular.world, where we're launching a social network for all the characters. And it's something I could share with you if you want to see, but it's basically like a place where the whole project can live. So the regulars will have profile pages, and the wallets will have a profile page, and the companies will have a profile page. And if you work at Dunkin' Donuts, you can tag your company and tag your boss. And it should be great because our community makes incredible content. Like, there's a lot of beautiful content coming out of Discord and on Twitter. And it just kind of goes through the time. It goes through the timeline, and it's not cumulative. So we're hoping that this website will be a place where the characters can really develop, and each profile page can grow over time. And it also tracks like price of the NFTs and transfers, and you can rename them. So I'm really stoked to release this. It might have a couple bugs, but it's feeling pretty good.
No, man, it sounds exciting to hear that you're continuing to build out for the regulars in the community. I need to jump into the Discord at some stage, but I guess one final question from me on the regulars, like, what's your favorite trait? What traits would you be eyeing out if you were to start from scratch?
I like the regulars. I just like the ones like the floor regulars usually. I've been collecting guys with the Woody haircut based on Woody Harrelson. Something about that's been pulling me in. And then also we have a trait called heavy makeup, which is just like hand painted makeup on these faces. And I think that those are pretty great.
All right, cool. I'll keep an eye out for those ones. And just so you've got the regulars, and you've actually got ones with names that I've sort of noticed as well, which is and I'm assuming the ones with names are more rare.
Well, actually, no. If you own a regular, you can name him or her, whatever you want. Everything. So after the jobs came out, I put all of our metadata and the renaming on chain. So you can rename these, and they're all the metadata updates dynamically. And also we got, I think had I saved the metadata to EVM in the fall of 2021, it would have cost like, $50,000. But there was a moment in the summertime that really felt bearish, where gas was like 3 overnight. Like, gas would be like 3 or 4. It was insane. So I worked with very helpful dev from the Crocodiles, and he helped make our metadata and trait data as efficient as possible, and then save that to the chain, which opens up a lot of possibilities moving forward.
Awesome. So does that mean I can change my regular to update for my name as well if I wanted to?
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. It's fun. I need to take a look at that one, mate. Yeah. So all right, then let's get back onto the punk story. So, what point did you buy your punk?
Right after the mint out, right after the regulars minted, I was feeling happy about that, and I have known that I wanted a punk, and went for it. And it was kind of a lucky time. Well, it was for a while until the recent dip, but it was right before the announcement of Christie's or Noah. So it was right before a bit of a pump. So I felt good about that, even though I didn't, I got in fairly late.
So when was that? In
That was like probably early summer 22.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, and I think that's sort of mid-year, just around NFT NYC, and Noah got appointed as the brand ambassador as well. Okay,
Exactly.
that's super cool. And then, so how did you, go about selecting out 4287? Like, how were you thinking about attributes and which ones you sort of wanted?
I mean, I gotta say, I just go on like a vibe, really. And this one stuck out to me as clean. I think I like clean traits right now, even though I've come to have a bit of a interest in the unclean traits lately. But it was between this and a stringy hair, actually. And it's funny, I hit up someone, a very controversial character in the Punks Discord. I hit him up, not knowing anybody, and I hit him up on Twitter, and he's like, "Oh, you need to talk to this other person." And I'm like, what do you think about these two? He's like, don't buy stringy hair. So I didn't buy the stringy hair. I got this guy who I like a lot, but I do think that stringy hairs are undervalued, and I am still usually looking at those.
I think so too. The stringy hairs get a lot of shit, right? The stringy hairs and the front beard. um,
Yeah,
but I actually don't mind the stringy hair, to be honest. But they're kind of cool. But now the do rag and the horn rim glasses is pretty clean. It's sort of semi gangster, but still clean.
yeah, he's clean. He's clean. I don't know. I can't really put it into words, but he says everything I want to say.
Mate, and if money wasn't an issue, what would be your dream punk, do you think?
That's a good question. I think actually I found one that's like VR clown hair,
Oh, that'd be cool.
and I thought that one would be really cool to own.
That one's like
Um,
Token Angels. Token Angels has got
yes, yeah,
yeah, he's got a
yep.
really cool one. Yeah, that's cool. And if you were to describe punk culture in a few words, like how would you describe that?
That is a good question as well. I think it's awesome just to be able to go talk to people who understand this world and kind of have their finger on the pulse of a lot of the innovations in the world and are participating in the innovations in the world. That's what makes me pretty stoked to have access to, the community. And then, yeah, I don't know. There's something that ties everyone together, investing in this asset that I think we all believe stands for something, being one of the earliest projects to explore like digital scarcity. Like that's just, I think that we will have scarce digital items from here on. And this was the first one by the innovators in the space. And also the images are really, really great. And the execution was amazing. So I don't know. I think that there's just something about like everyone kind of believes in the project, or I believe so, either as as a creative idea or an investment. But I also know that the community's pretty political, but I don't really know the nuances of that. I don't really tune into that part.
Do you think like political in what sense?
I think a lot of people feel like there's a need to evolve in some ways and not evolve in other ways, and work together to move forward in the right direction. And I think people there's a lot of opinions, and not much I can really say about it other than that there's beneath the surface. It's not just a collection of images; it's people kind of participating in this community and pushing the community forward. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of we had some interesting turns this year with the Bitcoin punks. That was a pretty interesting moment, and I think that there's a lot of ways this can go, and we're going to get a lot of opinions as time passes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I asked you because I feel the same way. I don't know if it's political, but there's sort of fractions or within the punk community that hang out in different places, and I don't know what's really caused it. I think, and the other side, the complexity too, is V1 punks. They've got a separate community, and in there you've got V1 and V2 punks that are there. You've got the punk Discord, you've got punk Telegram, you've got punk down now as well. So we're hanging out in different sort of places. Everyone's very independent, some with very strong views, and some in there that probably aren't, perhaps probably a little bit more grifting and extractive. But I think on the whole, everyone's building and trying to do the right thing and has a lot of integrity. But I think we're still evolving to find our community voice. And we've been through a lot of shit too, right? I mean, V1 punks and Yuga acquisition and a whole series of things that have sort of come and gone. BTC punks was one of those things as well. So I think, with the way that you've described it, probably resonates with me in some way. But I think we're sort of finding our way through that.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. How do you feel about V1 punks?
They're not really for me, but I understand why people care about them. They're part of the history. But I think for me personally, like I prefer the items that were, the finished pieces from Larva Labs. I don't want to take heat about it, but yeah, I think I know that there's some nuances about what was said when about the V1s, and one day maybe I'll feel different. But for now, I think mainly just a punk guy.
Gotcha. And we spoke a little bit about BTC punks. How do you feel about BTC punks?
I'm not mad at the BTC punks. I think like the crypto world's full of these moments where there's things being explored like very quickly and nobody knows what the hell they mean. And I think that's kind of what happened with those is like it was a exploration, and there may have been a little bit of like sketchiness there, but I think that there was an exploration, and then it was a big financial success, so they just rolled with it. But it's just a copy. It's just a copy of punks put on Bitcoin. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with ordinals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just can't get myself to get too deep into sort of ordinals. I think it's like, I mean, I'm struggling managing my own NFT portfolio in ETH, let alone another chain.
I know. I feel the same way. It's a beast too, and I keep hearing different things where I'm like, oh man, do I need to like look into this? Like EVM on Bitcoin? Like that sounds interesting to me. Yeah. I mean, I haven't dug in myself, but I see it on the horizon as something that I will dig into.
Insane. And I know you bought in after the Yuga acquisition, but do you feel a certain way about CryptoPunks being owned by Yuga?
I don't really know Yuga that well. I haven't owned a Yuga project. I think it's a bit strange, the trajectory of the punk ownership from Larva Labs to Yuga seems a little odd. But I trust that they're not going to do anything to really like change the project. And I think that that's something I've heard, and that's something that I believe is like, you can't really change this too much. But there are also some problems with the marketplace that could use a change. So I'm optimistic that Yuga is going to, push things forward in a way that is true to the original project, but also helps the community's like current needs.
Mm. When you said odd, like odd in what way?
I just don't know why did the IP have to change hands in the first place? I know there was a lot of money exchanged, and I'm happy Larva Labs could see the fruits of their project. And for Yuga, like I guess they just want publicity mainly, or they want ownership of this. I don't know what they want. Like it's strange to me. How much did they pay? How much are they going to get out from their investment? And if they're not making a profit, then they're getting something more abstract, which kind of makes sense for what they're doing. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like something that is not necessarily like a positive, is to like change the story in such a drastic way.
Gotcha. And when you mentioned things that they could do better on the marketplace and things like that, like what would you like, if Yuga were listening, like what would you like for punks?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like the marketplace, but I think the front running is like an issue that screws up the whole ecosystem. And I wish that there was a little bit more, support there to make it an even playing field. And that's the only thing that comes to mind. But it does seem like seems like something's kind of broken, is if some people are front running the marketplace.
Got it. And and would you have a view on what punks look like in the next 5 to 10 years, or what would you like to see happen with punks?
I don't think I want to. I wouldn't want to see much change, to be honest. Fix the front run project problem, and then
Yeah,
that's kind of it.
I think that's what most punks say as well. I think punks are better left alone in general. And I don't know if I asked you this as well. Like, what was it about CryptoPunks that made you want to buy? I mean, you besides having a successful mint out of the regulars and celebrating, but like of all the projects you could have bought, what was it about CryptoPunks that you were compelled to buy?
There are very few projects that I actually really want to buy, but the CryptoPunks just seems like you're owning a part of history, like a really, really significant part of history that will only become like more interesting and more significant. And, you know, we're going to have rare digital assets for the next hundreds of years. It's great to be in touch with like the first phase of that.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
And I just love I think the execution of the punks is just like perfect. I think it's just so, the visuals are great and the personalities are great. I just really appreciate it on that level too.
Yeah, totally. It's like, even if you were to, craft a project like this today, I mean, it's, years ahead of its time, right? In some ways. And it's just hard to believe that this was done in 2017. And
Totally.
so,
Amazing.
yeah. And if you could pass on the message to the next owner of your punk, 4287, what would you like to say to him?
What would I say to the next punk owner? I would just say, I hope that you keep pushing this guy's reputation forward and take care of him and hodl.
That's a very nice message and sage advice. Pup, this was a super fun interview and conversation. Really love getting to know you and what you're building with the regulars. Sounds like you've got some really exciting things lined up. So thank you for your time. And I guess just handing over to you for, any last final comments and how can people find you?
Yeah, thank you. This has been fun. I'm on Twitter as Pops P0pps, and there's a link to the regulars and to our Discord there. But Twitter's the best place to find me.
Awesome. I'll put them in the show notes anyway. But guys, this wraps up another episode of PunkCast for the week. Thank you for your time and listening, and stay tuned for next week as we all find some more punks to interview. Bye for now.